look at tile sets in GameMaker Studio 2. I've already imported the tile set that we're going to use as a sprite. So we're going to come down to Tile Sets. I'm going to right click on Tile Sets and click Create. We're going to name our tile set. And we're going to select the sprite that we're going to use for this tile set. So the first thing we need to do is set the size of our tiles. Right now by default is 16 by 16. You can leave it that size or you can move it up depending on what tiles you're using and how big they're set. So for this example, we're going to use 32 by 32. The tile X and Y offsets are in case our tiles are not exactly lined up with the edges. So for instance, if we move the tile offset for the X to 16, we notice that everything shifts over by 16 pixels. Same for the Y, it would just shift down. The tile separation is in case we have a separation in between our images. So we actually don't in this one, but if we had a separation, we can see that GameMaker will allow us to take that out of our tiles. The output border X and Y tells GameMaker how to handle overlaps with sprites. If we have an overlap between a sprite, is it going to choose pixels from the previous sprite or the next sprite? And it helps us sometimes when we end up with void areas in our game. So we're going to leave that by default as 2. And the disable source sprite export, just to make sure that we don't export this twice. Sometimes you would need to do that if you're using this for something else, but in this case we're not. So let's come down to our brush builder. And in our brush builder, GameMaker allows us to set custom brushes. So for instance, when we come down here to this bridge, we may want to, instead of using these as individual tiles, we may want to set it to where we can draw the end of this bridge all together. So the way we would do that is we're going to click and drag so that we select both of these squares, and you can see over here is our brush, it has both of the squares, and then we can place that into our brushes. So just click to place it, and we can do that with multiple areas from our tile. We have the eraser tool, which we can erase specific parts of our brush. We have the fill tool, where we can fill based on what we have selected. Our line tool allows us to put multiple tiles down. Our rectangle tool allows us to click and drag into a rectangle shape. The select tiles allows us to select specific tiles. We can select multiple tiles that way. And then with auto tile, we need to set that up. We're going to click on this little pencil, and it brings up another window. And this is coming from this button as well. So with auto tile, we're going to set this up as a 16 tile set. You can also set it up as a 47 tile set. And what we see here is this is GameMaker giving you suggestions on what needs to be in here. So for instance, the way we're going to set this up is we're going to make the dark area dirt, and we're going to make the light area grass. So you can see this is completely dark, so we're going to select a tile that represents all dirt. And then each of these we're going to match up with what it should be. So for instance, this is dirt in here and this is grass right here. So we'll click on that. And we'll go through this. I'm going to go ahead and set all of this up and then I'll be right back. Alright, now that we have that set up, we can see that it shows up here and we can select that and we can see where we have selected is going to draw that in. So if I click and drag, it's going to fill in based on our auto tile templates here. In the animation library, again, we click on this pencil, or from right up here, we can add animation. And we're going to click on this plus button to add an animation. Now, we don't have any good animations in this tile set, but I'm going to show you how this works here by clicking this drop down. You can select how many frames you're going to use in your animation. We're going to select 2. And we're going to choose 2 tiles to create our animation. So I'll select this first tile with the green inside of the bag, and I'll select the second tile with the yellow inside of the bag. We can click play to preview it, and if we don't like it, we can click back on the tile and change the tile to whatever we want. Now a couple other tools up here. We can choose to flip tiles, we can mirror the tiles, and we can rotate tiles. Now we're going to look at using tile sets in the rooms. So I'm going to open up my room, and we're going to create a tile layer. And once we do that, we can come down here to find the tile set that we have already set up. And in this window, we have several tabs that we can choose from. The first tab is just the tiles. So if we want to select a specific tile to put in our room, we just simply click on that tile and we can add that tile to the room. We have brushes. We can access the brushes we've set up earlier by coming down here, clicking on the object that we want to pull over and placing that object, and it will place it as a whole. And to the right, we can access the auto tile library. When we click on that, we can see that we have multiple tiles set, and if we click in a hole, we can draw like we did before with this tile set. Now, if we want to place tiles over other tiles, we can access the depth of the layer here. So if we create a new depth, first I'm going to come over here to the brushes, and I'm going to show you when we click on here, you can see it, you get a black background behind that because these are on the same layer right now. So instead of doing that, we can come over here to the layers, create a new layer. We're going to set the depth of this layer by unlocking it, and we're going to set the depth to -1. Now the way that GameMaker does depths is -1 would be on top of 0, -2 would be on top of -1. We can actually go the other way as well. So 0 would be on top of 1, 1 would be on top of 2. So by setting this to -1, we're going to create a new tile set for this layer. And I'm going to go back over to my brushes. I'm going to click on the bridge, and now when I place this bridge, you can see that we no longer have that black in the background there because it's setting this on top of the other layer, and the black is transparent.